Minors sentenced to death row in the U.S. These minors committed the most heinous crimes, hoping to get lighter sentencing because of their young age. Instead, they got the maximum sentence, death row. Today we will take a closer look at the most horrific case of young killers, their sentencing, final meals, last words, and their executions. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. On October 1, 1981, a 17-year-old boy named Johnny Frank Garrett broke into a convent that was next door to where he lived. He met 76-year-old nun, Tadia Benz, who was shocked to see the young man. She tried to call for help. Unfortunately, that help never came. Garrett essayed the nun and unalived her. He thought he would get away with it, but on the 9th of November the same year he was arrested. After being tried, he was found guilty and sentenced to death. He was supposed to be executed on the 6th of January 1992, but something happened. Pope John Paul II intervened, appealing for clemency. Because of this, the governor offered a reprieve. Garrett was once more granted a hearing to see if his death sentence could be reduced to a life sentence. After much assessment, the death sentence was reinstated. A day before his death, he was offered a last meal, and he chose strawberry and chocolate ice cream. His final statements were, "I would like to thank my family for their love. The rest of the world can kiss my ever-loving ass." Garrett was executed on the 11th of February 1998. He was executed by lethal injection at the Huntsville unit. He was officially pronounced dead at 6 p.m. On the 3rd of November 1990, in the state of Virginia, 17-year-old Douglas Christopher Thomas, who had been dating Jessica Wiseman, 14 years old, made a decision that ruined both their lives. Jessica's parents were not in support of their relationship as they felt Jessica was too young. Kathy and James Wiseman did all they could to end the relationship, but Jessica refused to heed her parents' advice. She wanted nothing more than to be with Thomas. One day, the lovebirds devised a plan that would ensure that Jessica's parents were no longer an obstacle to their relationship. That fateful day, Thomas arrived at the residence of the Wisemans with a shotgun. Jessica led him into the house through a window and guided him to her parents. Thomas shot James first, killing him on the spot. He proceeded to shoot Kathy. She was merely injured at first and tried to plead with the assailant. But Jessica told her boyfriend to finish the job. Thomas shot Kathy a second time and killed her. Thomas and Jessica left so many traces that it was difficult not to catch them. Thomas was arrested and he confessed to the whole story. During the trial, Thomas was sentenced to death, while Jessica was tried as a minor and sentenced to 7 years in prison. She was released from prison at age 21. During an interview, Thomas stated that he was overwhelmed that Jessica only got 7 years while he got a death sentence for something they both agreed upon. He acknowledged that he made the wrong decision and he takes responsibility for his actions. He added that he didn't think America should execute juvenile offenders as this meant that they had no chance at rehabilitation. Thomas's last meal was fried chicken. And the next day, January 10, 2000, Thomas was executed by lethal injection. He died at the Greensville Correctional Facility in Virginia. It was the 2nd of July 1977, a 17-year-old boy named Dalton Prejean and 3 of his friends were driving in a 1966 Chevrolet after drinking heavily. They were stopped at a checkpoint near Lafayette Parish. The taillights of the car were shattered due to an earlier altercation between Dalton and his older brother Joseph. When State Officer Donald Cleveland asked the boys to step out of the vehicle for inspection, Dalton, still angered by the altercation, took out a .38 caliber revolver and shot Officer Donald twice. He died on the spot. The young boys drove off, but were apprehended a few hours later. Dalton was arrested for the murder of Officer Cleveland. It was later found that he had mental health issues and a considerably low IQ. However, it didn't make much difference in court. In 1978, he was sentenced to death. He continued to appeal for several years, even appealing to the Supreme Court. However, his sentence did not change. On the 17th of April 1990, Prejean was served his last meal. It was an exotic seafood platter with an orange drink. The following day, Prejean was escorted to the electric chair in the Louisiana State Penitentiary. When asked for his final statements, he said, "Nothing will be accomplished by my death. I am at peace with myself. I would like to thank my loved ones and those who supported me. My son will be better for not letting this ruin his life. Stay strong, keep fighting, and keep praying." They said it wasn't about revenge, but it's hard to see it that way. I hope you are all happy. So, I give my life. I love you all. God bless you. A jolt of electricity surged through his body until he was lifeless. At 9:14 p.m., Prejean was pronounced dead. On the 23rd of March 1944, a little girl named Betty June Binnicker, 11 years old, and her friend, Mary Emma Thames, 8 years old, went missing. Not long after, their bodies turned up in a ditch. They had been unalived. The same day, a 14-year-old African-American boy by the name George Stinney Jr. was arrested for the crime. Reports of the interrogation at that time showed that George Stinney Jr. confessed to unaliving the girls. The interrogation was carried out without the presence of a guardian or a lawyer. George was tried on the 24th of April 1944. The trial was very swift and the sentence was laid immediately. The defense had no time to present a witness or call an alibi. George was sentenced to die by electric chair. On the 16th of June 1944, George Stinney Jr. was escorted to the execution chamber at South Carolina State Penitentiary. He was so small that the cover placed on his head was too big. His last words were chilling. In between fear and confusion, his voice echoed, "No, sir." Many years passed, and numerous debates had been held on the legality of the George Stinney trial. On the 14th of December 2014, a judge in South Carolina overturned the conviction, stating that the George Stinney case had been tried wrongly. Also, considering his age as well as the urgency of the trial, his confession, if real, was likely coerced. After 70 years, George Stinney Jr. was officially acquitted of the charges. On the 1st of August 1990, Glenn Charles McGinnis walked into Wilkins Dry Cleaners in Conroe, Texas, and did the unthinkable. He left carnage behind him as he made away with $140. Hours later, a customer entered Wilkinson's and found the body of Lita Wilkerson, an employee. She was murdered. A stack of jeans belonging to McGinnis lay on the floor, and police found that at least $140 was missing from the cash register. A search began for the 17-year-old, and he was found living with his aunt, a few meters from the dry cleaners. The police found a .25 caliber pistol in his possession, which matched the murder weapon. Also in his possession was $104. He was immediately arrested and charged with murder. He was tried and sentenced to death on the 30th of July 1992. He made several appeals, all of which were denied. McGinnis didn't request a final meal and didn't give any final statement. On the 25th of January 2000, McGinnis was taken into the execution chamber and executed by lethal injection. Charles Rumbaugh was a disturbed 17-year-old who shot and killed the jewelry store owner, Michael Fiorello, on April 4, 1975. It happened during a robbery of the store. Coincidentally, Charles had robbed a hotel 2 days prior and made away with $350. He was easily identified and charged with murder. He stood trial in April 1976, and the jury unanimously decided on his fate. He was sentenced to death row. He was sent to the Potter County Jail, where he planned with 2 other inmates and escaped from prison. However, they didn't make it far before they were recaptured again. On the day before his execution, he was asked for a final meal, but he turned down the offer and ate whatever was on the menu. His final words were, "DJ Laurie and Dr. Wheat, all I can say is goodbye. And to the rest of the world, although you may not forgive my transgressions, I forgive yours against me. I am ready to begin my journey." Charles was executed on the 11th of September 1985 in Texas. On the 19th of April 1994, a 17-year-old boy by the name Napoleon Beasley wanted to steal a Mercedes-Benz. He organized his friends, Donald and Cedric Coleman, his best henchmen for the act. The owner of the targeted car was a 63-year-old businessman named John Ludick. One day, John arrived home late and drove into the driveway, unsuspecting of the chaos that was about to unfold. When John entered his home, Beasley ambushed him and unleashed several shots. He also shot Ludick's wife, but she got away by playing dead. The boys grabbed the car keys and fled. It didn't take very long before the trails led to the boys. All three of them were caught. The Coleman boys testified against Beasley for lighter sentences, which were 40 years each. On October 28, 1994, Beasley was sentenced to death. He continued to appeal in the time he spent in prison, all to no avail. A day before his execution, he was offered a last meal, but he turned down the offer of a special meal. His final statements were, "The act I committed was heinous and just senseless, but the person who committed that act is no more. I am sorry for what is happening here tonight. I am disappointed that a system that is supposed to protect and uphold the law can be so much like me when I made the same shameful mistake." Beasley was executed by lethal injection on the 28th of May 2002. He was pronounced dead at 6:17 p.m. The death sentence for minors was officially stopped by the U.S. Supreme Court in 2005. Let us know what you think about these cases. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. See you at the next one.